You say 6:30? All right, I'll go ahead. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Angela, I'll start with you for the roll call of commissioners.
Commissioner Wolfius,
Here.
Commissioner Melcher,
Here.
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner Journey,
Present.
Commissioner White, here, and Commissioner Graybill.
Here.
Okay, all are present.
All right, this is an opportunity, our public comment for any members of the public to address the Planning Commission on topics that aren't listed on the agenda. Thank you very much. Please have a seat and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Fulton. My address is 1550 12th, and I also own Sweet Home Tattoo at 1228 Main. I just have a couple of things. I'm not sure how this kind of works, but I'm hoping that you guys will be able to.
Thank you, Angela.
Oh, is it not on?
Angela's going to
Oh,
give us what you brought.
Okay. I'm hoping that you guys will be able to look into chapter 17.52, the fencing and screening, particularly materials. And one in particular, which is corrugated metal. I was a contractor for many years. I built dozens of fences across the state using that material. And unknowingly, I did so here in town to find out I was in violation. And I'm just hoping that you guys will look at that, maybe look at some of the pictures, and maybe make a change to that code. It's a really affordable material. So it's cost effective for people. It has a durability that's much better than cedar, plank, and cedar. And it creates an opportunity for people that might not have the money to do a higher end cedar fence to be able to do something that's just as durable. And so that's pretty much what I'm hoping for.
Thank you,
For
Mike.
bringing your concern to
Yeah.
us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, we don't have any other public comment here today, so we will move on to our meeting minutes from our Planning Commission meeting on October 17th.
I would make a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes of October 17th, 2024 as presented.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Opposed? Any abstain? All right, the meeting minutes have been approved. And now we'll move on to our public hearing, CU 24-03 at 6:33. The applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. Testimony, arguments, evidence must be directed towards the criteria described or the other criteria in the plan or land use regulation, which the person believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Do any of our commissioners have any personal bias?
No.
No,
I have none. Any conflicts of interest?
No. No.
no,
No. Any ex parte information?
No.
no.
No. Not
I have none.
Not
So
really.
we'll move to Angela for the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the lease of approximately 3,200 square feet of City Hall to the Community Services Consortium, CSC. The lease will include office space, parking, indoor storage space, and outdoor storage space. The services offered by the CSC will include, but are not limited to, supported services and case management for veterans and families, SNAP training and employment program, community career coaching, job search assistance, resource navigation, work experience programs, WIOA youth programs, which is Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, seasonal utility assistance, forest fuels reduction, defensible space crews, and assorted programs as they become available. Should the conditional use be approved, the CSC has proposed to assist the applicant with renovations to the office space. The applicant is applying for a conditional use per Sweet Home Municipal Code, Chapter 17.24.040D. Any other use that is compatible with the purpose and intent of the zone and that would have off-site impacts that would not significantly exceed those that are typical of other conditionally permitted uses listed in this section. Tax lot 101 contains approximately 5.03 acres and it is a public facility zone. The subject property is not in the special flood hazard area. The subject property does not contain inventoried wetlands. However, there's a drainage channel. SSR-7E is located in the far southwest corner of the subject property. There will be no impact to this channel with proposed conditional use. Frontage and access from Main Street. It has existing city water and sewer services in Main Street. The applicant is applying for a conditional use per the Sweet Home Municipal Code 17.24040D. The purpose of the public facility zone is to provide areas appropriate for specific public and semi-public uses and to ensure the compatibility with adjacent uses. It is intended that the zone be applied to individual parcels shown to be appropriate location for a certain public or semi-public use. The proposed use shall comply with the development standards listed in Sweet Home Municipal Code, Chapter 17.24.060. Staff finds the proposed use and services provided by CSC compatible with the purpose and intent of the public facility zone. The east side of City Hall, it was not renovated prior to the 2019 move from 1140 12th Avenue. Since 2019, the east side of the building has been used for storage only. Based on the list of services submitted by CSC, supplemental to the application, which is attachment C, CSC is proposing to provide in-kind services and assist the city with renovations to the area, subject to the conditional use. No external renovations are proposed with this application. The site size, shape, location, topography, location of improvements, and natural features are adequate for the proposed use. Staff finds that the proposed lease to Community Services Consortium, CSC, is timely. There is access to the building from Main Street and a public bus stop located northeast side of the front parking lot, providing convenient transportation access for all residents. Per Sweet Home Municipal Code 17.44.060, one bike space per every 20 vehicle spaces, one parking space per 800 square feet, plus one parking space for 2 employees are required. The entire building is 12,705 square feet, requiring 16 parking spaces. City Hall currently staffs 11 employees, requiring an additional 6 parking spaces. The number of staff that will be employed by CSC and working from the proposed site is unknown. However, the existing parking lot provides 67 regular parking spaces, 4 handicap parking spaces, and 5 bicycle spaces. Subtracting the number of parking spaces required for City Hall square footage and staff leaves approximately 52 spaces available for CSC. Staff finds that there is adequate parking for the proposed use. There is no existing or planned external development for the site that will be affected by the planned use. The proposed use will not alter the character of the surrounding area. Abutting the subject property to the north is Main Street, also known as Highway 20. Abutting the subject property to the west is a vacant lot. Abutting the property to the south is a vacant lot and multifamily residential. And abutting the property to the east is an undeveloped park and residential neighborhood. Staff has not identified any negative impacts to the adjacent properties. To ensure compliance with the standards listed in Sweet Home Municipal Code, staff has included proposed conditions of approval that are listed in Section 4 of the staff report. Sweet Home Municipal Code 17.104060 allows the Planning Commission to impose conditions of approval. This is an opportunity for the Planning Commission to determine if conditions are needed to ensure compliance with the decision criteria as well as the best interests of the surrounding properties, the neighborhood, and the city as a whole. To ensure compliance with the standards listed in the Sweet Home Municipal Code, staff has included proposed conditions of approval listed in Section 4 of this report. These conditions are primarily a customized list of existing local, state, and federal standards that apply to the application. The Duck Hollow Homeowners Association has raised concerns regarding the potential impacts of CSC services on their properties. That is included as in your packet. According to the application summary, attachment C, CSC plans to lease the east side of City Hall for office, meetings, and training space to support the range of services they offer. CSC will also use some parking spaces in the rear lot and may potentially utilize storage space. There will be no impact to City Hall or nearby properties apart from the internal building renovations and the designated use of parking spaces for staff, parking, and equipment storage, much like the Wright's Tree Service has been doing each year. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but Wright's Tree Service parks in our back and stores their vehicles back here. So it won't be much different as far as parking and storage. CSC services will include citywide projects approved prior to implementation. Staff does not foresee increased foot traffic, transient activity, loitering, or access to the subdivision while people await services. Staff does not foresee an increase in criminal activity, unauthorized access to the wetland area, or increased noise pollution for adjacent properties. Again, the exterior use is only going to be used for parking and possible storage. As part of the lease, all CSC services being provided from the proposed site shall be disclosed to the city. Staff does not see any potential negative impacts to the safety and standard of living for association members. Conclusion and recommendation: if the Planning Commission approves this application, staff recommends that the condition of approval listed below be required in order to ensure the application is consistent with the findings in the review and design decision criteria in Section 3 and as required by the Sweet Home Municipal Code and other provisions of law. Appeals to the Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, may only be based on review and decision criteria contained in Section 3. Recommended conditions of approval: the property owner and tenant shall complete all building renovations within 1 year of the date of the approval of the application CU 24-03. 2, the property owner and tenant shall obtain and comply with all applicable local, state, and federal permits and requirements. The applicant shall submit copies of all required permits and licenses to the Sweet Home Community and Economic Development Department for inclusion in the record of CU 24-03. This also includes the assessor's lease requirements that were listed in Section 2 comments. Planning Commission action: in acting on a conditional use permit application, the Planning Commission will hold a public hearing at which it may either approve or deny the application. If the application is denied, the action must be based on the applicable review and decision criteria. If approved, the Planning Commission may impose conditions of approval. Staff's recommended conditions are included in Section 4. Pursuant to ORS 227.175, the Planning Commission may establish an appeal period of not less than 12 days from the date of the written notice of the Planning Commission's decision is mailed. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission's decision on this matter be subject to a 12-day appeal period from the date that the notice of decision is mailed. After the Planning Commission decides, staff recommends that the Planning Commission direct staff to prepare an order that is signed by the chairperson of the Planning Commission. The order would memorialize the decision and provide the official list of conditions, if any, that apply to the approval of the application is approved. Motion: after opening the public hearing and receiving testimony, the Planning Commission's options include the following. 1, move to approve application CU 24-03, which includes adopting the findings of fact listed in the staff report and the conditions of approval listed in Section 4 of the staff report. The setting of a 12-day appeal period from the date of the mailing of the decision, and hereby direct staff to prepare an order to be signed by the chair to memorialize this decision. 2, move to deny application CU 24-03, which includes adopting the findings of fact, including the setting of a 12-day appeal period from the date of the mailing of the decision, and hereby direct staff to prepare an order to be signed by the chair to memorialize the decision. 3, move to continue the public hearing to a date and time certain or for other. Do you have any questions of staff?
Fair an expiration on this lease? Are they're good? I'm sorry, wasn't speaking.
We're still in final lease negotiations, but I can actually pull up the proposed term real quick. Just give me 1 minute.
If you haven't met Cecily, our assistant city manager, she is representing the applicant tonight.
It's for a 5-year term as proposed.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff?
I'll go ahead.
Just one. The city is the applicant, then when it comes to the Lynn County assessors payments as necessary, if they don't get a waiver of needing to pay payment, is the applicant, the city, responsible for those payments, or is it the tenant? Lease.
So as the lease is written, the city would be responsible for those taxes, but we're confident that they will receive an exemption.
I would expect so, but yeah. Okay.
That might be a condition.
It is actually, so the condition number 2, where it states, sorry, let me go back to it here. The property owner and tenant shall obtain and comply with all applicable local, state, and federal permits and requirements. So that would be counted up underneath that.
Yeah.
If you want it to be specific, I can add a third condition for that specifically, but it would fall under the local state requirements and permits. But that is up to you if you want that specifically called out.
Is that part of our purview, is reviewing this as a land use?
It's for the conditions. So the land use is whether we want to allow them to
Yep.
lease that space.
Mhm.
If you want to add conditions of approval for that for that use, you can.
Okay,
If you want to be more specific than just the general conditions of approval, you are more than welcome to do that.
okay.
Where are they operating now?
They have, I believe they have multiple offices, but I think their closest outpost is in Lebanon right now. But they provide services all the way out to Cascadia, so they're hoping to expand east.
And will you be doing your public testimony? Will you be the applicant
is-
that's coming up? So we could ask these questions during.
I wasn't planning to.
You can just ask
right
her.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you need to ask, because the city is the applicant, so.
What do you anticipate the daily foot traffic?
It depends. So they would like to commence the lease soon, and so it's going to be phased depending on which programs they decide to move over. So at first, I think they're planning to have maybe 2 or 3 office workers and focus on deploying work crews. But she mentioned SNAP training, employment program, career coaching. That'll probably phase in over the first year. But I think in talking with them, maybe 30 clients in and out throughout the day, but in terms of people on site for the full day, it's not going to be very many.
Okay.
Will it, will it be a 5-day-a-week operation or limited to the 4 days that City Hall is open?
We have not figured that out yet, but they will likely be on their own security system and all of that. So if they decide to offer services 5 days, we will work that out with them.
Okay. And I noticed that the notes in here aren't to have any expansion of the building, but their main entrance, is that going to be a remodel on the front of the
Yes.
parking lot?
Yes,
Looking similar to the City Hall lobby entrance?
that's the intention, is to match it as much as possible.
Okay, good.
Do you have any information from CSC's other locations where neighboring residences have experienced negative impacts from their presence?
I don't have that information, no.
In respect to Duck Hollow's concerns, it doesn't appear that there's any through travel or pedestrian that would go south.
No, so the employee parking will be in the back. We will dedicate some parking in the front for their clients, but again, we're not intending to, there will be no intentional
No through
connection.
roads.
No, oh, no, certainly not.
Do we know what, well, I know you know, I don't, or you might know, I don't know. The bus, like the bus schedule, how frequently the bus stops at this stop? Because that may create more people sitting or like being here. How frequently does the bus come? Because people might need public transport to get to and from these services.
I think it's every 30 minutes.
I'm trying to pull.
I
it
can
up
see
right
them pulling our parking lot quite
Okay.
frequently, so.
That,
And we have a lot of
That
people
uses
that
that.
already pick up the bus here.
Yeah.
So, and it's pretty frequent that it comes because
Okay.
I can see it pulling in our parking lot quite a bit. So
Okay.
the exact timing, no, I don't, but.
perfect. That seems perfect for this kind of
Mhm.
organization. All right. Do we have any other questions for our applicant?
Which which part of your services is going to require the showers and washers and dryers?
So they do a lot of clearing of vegetation. And so they know that they may encounter poison oak. So it's to shower after they return from the field.
Oh. That makes sense.
Anything else for our applicant? All right, then we'll move on to our proponent's testimony. This is any testimony from those wishing to speak in favor of the application. And if you didn't do so already, please fill out a comment card. I will move on then to opponent's testimony. This is testimony from those wishing to speak in opposition to the application. You can come forward now and fill out a comment card.
No, if I necessarily pull up.
Oh, here, please go ahead, hand it to Angela and she'll bring it to me.
Perfect.
And then go ahead and have a seat and state your name and address for us.
My name is Eric Stutzer, and I live at 1227 Laurel Court in the Duck Hollow subdivision, and I'm also the HOA president. I don't necessarily have an objection to it, but I'm still a little concerned about scope of activity. It hasn't really been clearly defined. I'm hearing that there's a vegetation crew. I'm hearing that there is probably going to be some type of service oriented to veterans and possibly disability. I think the big concern for Duck Hollow residents has been the idea that there could possibly be a residential service that could come in the future. And that is one of our big concerns because we really don't want to have a residential service right next door. I know that in the past, CSC has tried to put the homeless shelter here as well. And that was something that our subdivision was very, very concerned about. And at the same time, we heard similar things that there wouldn't be an increase of transient activity. There wouldn't be problems with our wetlands that we're supposedly overseeing. And I would say that from our end that we have to have some type of opposition to that, because if their scope in the future is going to be residential and expansion, then it definitely would have some form of impact on our homeowners. There is a very clear path into our subdivision here next to the market that has always been very problematic for our community, especially the homeowners living in this section. There has also been a fence now removed to the adjacent, what I believe is the park here now, and you can walk clearly through there. I walked through there tonight just for ease of access. So there is I can't talk, it's been a long day. There are still some concerns from the homeowners that there would be that accessibility, especially if people were waiting around for services, and especially if there was a residential treatment facility that would go in here. And I think that that is really all that we have. Other than that, I mean, it's, we want to be able to provide the services that are needed within the context of the community. We just don't want there to be problematic impact that would be from future expansion or undisclosed services that would be offered. And so just something for consideration more than opposition.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll move on to any neutral testimony, testimony from those that are neither in favor or in opposition to the application. Right, do our applicants have a rebuttal? Then I will close the public hearing at 6:53 for discussion amongst the commission.
So is there a public access that they can get from the parking lot or the city hall?
So the
property
adjacent
to-
undeveloped park, there is a strip that runs behind the existing fence on the adjoining property that
Okay.
connects with the Duck Hollow.
Okay,
And there is a planned path that will loop in with our park
got it.
someday. So
Okay,
that has been approved. It's an approved plan. It just funding.
If
Okay.
my memory serves me correct, and we dealt with Duck Hollow, that was a very desired thing to have a path over to the grocery store. And it was part of our plan. Kind of at their request.
Then, I mean, it makes sense then that is important to them to preserve as part of their community. But I think that CSC and what their plan is and what's in this conditional use is programs that would fit into this space and what needs to be offered.
I'm not seeing anything that would make me believe that the people that would be utilizing these services would need to go, in other surrounding neighborhoods. I can see them maybe going to the market and back, but I don't see them having to cut through the subdivision to get anywhere in particular, unless of course they live back there,
Unless they live there.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there's really nothing over off of Long Street that I think that they would need to get to. So I don't know.
Would the CSC be required to have some sort of exterior surveillance cameras, etc., to as part of their security system?
So we already do have some cameras here on site that would cover portions of the building, and we are hoping to expand surveillance actually over to that vacant area at some point once we secure funding.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I had one other thought, but I forgot it. So give me a moment and I'll see if it comes back.
Would any additional services, I heard mention residential
Yeah,
facilities,
that was my request.
and it's
Yeah.
not listed in here?
It is not
It's
listed.
part of our.
I will tell you in my
decision.
conversations with them, residential treatment has never come up as a proposed use, and Angela can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that would require a change in the
Addition-
permit.
Additional.
Yeah.
They would have to come back, any changes to what is approved tonight, if they
Right.
decide to amend it or add services, they would have to come back and it would have to be approved as an additional conditional use
In a
in
public
order.
forum.
Yes.
Right, and it would have a whole other set of requirements to
Correct,
have a
yeah.
facility like that.
Yeah.
So,
And I can say because it's a shared building, the likelihood of the city agreeing to that use is very small.
right, yes,
Um,
right,
I-
correct.
I have a question then about there is some verbiage in the lease that they sent over that does the list of services offered. It says assorted programs as they become available. And I imagine it's that is making Duck Hollow residents concerned. And so I'm wondering if maybe we can clarify that verbiage so that it's more specific and can ease the mind of that, or if maybe we can just strike that from the lease as one of our conditions to make sure that those come forward. But I don't want to stop any other programs that might fit in. I know there's just a wide range. They didn't want to give us pages of.
So the example, the attachment that you have is just their description of services. It's not actually the lease that they have with us.
Okay.
So this was just all of the services that they offer and that they could potentially offer, and then their agreement with the city on the renovations for the other side, for the actual side of the building. So
Okay.
this is not actually the lease. This is just,
Yeah, I mean-
this is just a sample of what they provide.
I can't see where we would have any jurisdiction over a legal document and what's written in there. And this just sounds to me like sort of template stuff that goes into leases anyway. But yeah, I think that's beyond.
I asked
where-
them for a description of their services
Okay.
so we could provide that so you
Thank you
could
for
have that.
clarifying.
Yeah.
What is the length of the lease and what is the possibility that at some future date, City Hall may want to use that space and expand?
So the initial term is for 5 years. So they would have the ability to stay here for those 5 years, but after that, if we choose not to renew because we want it for another use, then we have that prerogative.
That's good so that there's a little opt-out.
So
Probably won't happen, but it's always something to keep in mind.
what is the Connex box? Is that one of those big shipping containers?
Basically, yes.
We have two, I think, out back already that we use for storage. So they're on the other side of the fence. So
Yeah.
our back fence.
And they recently received a grant for emergency management supplies, so it's for storage for that.
I feel like this would be very compatible use to what's already existing here.
Well, if we have no more questions, then I'll look for a motion.
Are we ready for a motion?
We are.
Well, I'm just going to read what's here. I would move to approve application CU 24-03, which includes adopting the findings of fact listed in the staff report and the conditions of approval listed in section 4 of the staff report. The setting of a 12-day appeal period from the date of the mailing of the decision, and hereby direct staff to prepare an order to be signed by the chair to memorialize this decision.
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes.
you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And that is all that is on our agenda today.
I have quite a few updates for you.
All right. Then come at us, Angela.
I have a list. So on next Tuesday is the Transportation System Plan Joint Work Session with the City Council at 5:30 here in council chambers. So as many of you can make it would be excellent. It's just the work session, and then there will be a second work session on January 14th. And I will remind you of this. Hopefully, none of this changes, but sometimes the city council changes things around, so hopefully that doesn't happen. The housing production strategy hearing, it was going to be a joint work session, but being able to work that out is not working. So I am going to bring it to you all on December 5th. And I will have a proclamation of recommendation from you to the city council so they can bring that directly on Tuesday. Normally I have a couple weeks in between that, but due to timing and when they're available and that we're only having one meeting for city council, we're going to mix it up a little bit this time. So I'll be bringing it to you on the 12th for recommendation and then immediately take it to city council on that Tuesday. So the 21st, November 21st meeting, we have a subdivision application. And on December 19th, we will have a variance in connection to a partition application. So we
No
are
meeting at the beginning of December?
just, yes. So we have
Oh,
the
that's the-
housing production strategy hearing on that day. So the next 3 meetings, we have something going on. So not
Okay.
packed, but we have something. The other thing I was going to bring up is you will see a significant amount of probably amendments to the code here coming up soon. So there have been not only building code changes that we need to work into land use code, but there has also been some land use bills, Senate bills that came out for the Affordable Housing Act that I will be going through as soon as I can to work through it. The fence materials, if this is something that you would like to see us
Yes.
put
please.
in that as an amendment, I can add that also because this would be the best time to do it instead of having an agenda. So if this is something you're interested in me amending in the fence code, then I can add that at the same time.
I think so.
Yes.
I don't care for it. I like it as a design feature, but
Mhm.
just a plain old metal fence is not attractive to me.
I've seen some very attractive ones.
Yeah,
And I think there's some,
It's a thing
as,
now.
as
It's
a
an option.
decorative.
and
Yeah.
I like it as a decorative.
I think giving people options to fix old fences in ways that are attractive and affordable are worth looking at. So
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, I will include that in our amendment. So,
Affirm.
and then if there's, like I said, what I will be doing, the hope is, we are hoping to make an offer for a planning and building technician here after Tuesday. Has to be approved by city council first. And so we're hoping to make that offer. And I'm hoping to have someone on board in December. So that will hopefully start moving things along a little bit faster, but. And then once we have her hired, then I will be working on amendments. So we're getting there. So that's all I have on my list of all these things.
Thank you for all your hard work.
So
Anything
the
else?
end of the month is going to, end of the year is going to be busy.
Yep, lots of business.
Good for Sweet Home.
One thing that you guys, I think I took a class yesterday. It was a building codes class, and it had to do with prefabricated structures, modular homes. It is going to be, I think you guys will find it very interesting. A lot of the amendments to the code are going to be coming out about just approval of these and how we approve them and how we accept them. It's going to be a cross between planning and building code where these will work in. So there's a lot of new information, a lot of, especially with the Affordable Housing Act and the middle housing laws that are coming out. So we're going to see a lot more of the modulars, a lot more of the tiny homes, but there's definitions as to what qualifies what and who inspects what. So it's a very informative class. I was I was very pleased with the information I got. It's just a lot that's got to come out of here and get it in our code. So, so that's a lot of what you're going to see come down the road is a lot of the adjustments for the Affordable Housing Acts that are coming out, and then just the options for people for more affordable housing, which are these smaller modular and the mass timber, prefabricated home. There's some pretty neat ones out there. I mean, it's amazing what they can come up with and nowadays. So.
Having good code for those new.
Yeah, and that was my concern is we don't have many yet, but they're getting more popular. And so how we fit that all in. And so it was a good class. So hopefully we'll be able to work that in with a little bit of help from DLCD. They're going to help us kind of work through and audit our code. So, but that's it.
We have a 5th or a 7th.
Not yet.
Probably have to wait.
If you know of someone interested, tell them to apply.
Maybe,
That's good.
maybe some of the leftover city council candidates.
I think that's a great idea.
Have
That
an
was the
interest.
thought, to wait till after elections to
That's
do
a great
recruitment.
See.
Yeah.
There were some good candidates that on only 4 spots.
Okay. All right, then I will adjourn the meeting
Stay.
at 7:06. Thank you.
Six.
You guys think
They did.
Send Anybody going to